Taking a quick break on Thursday from smelling some turkey in the air, but instead it smells like a reckoning.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Mazda. Like players, Mazda sweats out every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned for later in today's show for highlights in this week's Mazda moving the game forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Happy Thursday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, putting a quick little pin in some NC State football talk. Obviously, we have the Virginia Tech game coming up on Saturday. Much more to speak about on Friday's show. Basketball. NC State basketball is now technically underway. They've begun practice. Will Wade is speaking to the media. And more so than the last 2 years combined, I have gotten more comments in the month of September asking if we can talk some NC State basketball. So for all of you that have been asking, today is your day, amongst many more to come as well. But here on Thursday, we know that NC State has recently had an open practice. Will Wade spoke to the media, and you can tangibly feel the excitement radiating off of Will Wade. This roster, since the last time we spoke about it, and that was the addition of Musa Sanya from Spain, this coaching staff, they love what they have. They feel even better about the depth, not just in the front court, but also in the back court. And they do feel like they can compete for an ACC title in just year one of Will Wade and Raleigh. Something else I want to talk about, something that I've heard out of this open practice. I wouldn't exactly hone in on who you think the starting five will be because there's so many options at multiple different positions. It could be a crapshoot on opening night against NC Central. We've talked a lot about Matt Abel rising his stock over the summer. Terrence Arsenault, who I think might be the ACC Sixth Man of the Year. We know that Darian Williams is probably going to be the ACC preseason player of the year. We know about Quadir Copeland joining Will Wade from McNeese. Previously at Syracuse, Will Wade loves his prospects playing point guard, in addition to Trey Holloman, a four-year captain up in East Lansing for Tom Izzo and the Spartans. This team, we have not seen them play yet, but on paper, you can already tell they are built to win.
This team looks good on paper. Unfortunately, the game is played on hardwood. We need to see what this team looks like, but I'm going to tell you something. Will Wade's got he's got the whole crew buzzing. He's got everybody in Raleigh with a little bit of a different feeling coming into this season. And let me explain to you why. We are picking up more dynamic wins and being listed as a finalist for dynamic recruits. That's old hat in Raleigh. With all due respect, we've had plenty of big-time recruits that we've been named a finalist for or that we've gotten to commit that never showed up. But Will Wade is getting these guys to campus early, getting them right away. This is exciting. This is exciting. You talk about, who's the starters, who's not the starters. Let's be honest, right? Let's be honest. If Colt Langdon happened to be the guy that averaged 20 and 15 this season and led us to wherever, none of us would care. No, and that's with all due respect to Colt. I think he's going to turn into a fine front court player a few years down the line, but I don't think he's going to be that guy right now. But you get my point, Grayson. What I'm saying is Wolfpack Nation doesn't care who the guy is, right?
Correct.
Coming into this season, we knew, or I'll say this. Look back at last season in terms of football. You and I noticed in the beginning of the season, hey, Hollywood's probably your best back. Halfway through the season, despite all of the early excitement surrounding Jordan Waters, and again, this is not to shade that young man or say what he is or is not, but we all knew the offense runs at they have a different gear when Hollywood is in, and Wolfpack Nation felt the same way. It wasn't at all a situation where it's like, oh my God, Jordan Waters is a local guy and we all love him, so you got to go with him. Wolfpack Nation, hey, the best guy is the best guy is the best guy. Go with the best guy. Ride the best guy. Make it happen with the best guy. And so I look at this situation and I say, I'm excited because Will Wade is saying all the right things. This team is consistently having multiple players be mentioned as the what is it, the man of the week, or what? What do they call it?
The player of the week, yeah.
Player of the week, in essence, where it's like, hey, this is the guy that does it right on and off the court and all that. We're not just seeing Darian Williams. So it's like, oh, okay, he's your guy. You're seeing multiple guys. You're seeing Van Allen Lubin in there. You're seeing Matt Abel in there. You're seeing all of these guys in there. You're seeing Arsenal in there. You're seeing all these guys in there, which means the standard is not for one player to get it done. As we've seen in the past, sometimes we had an offensive system where it was get one guy the ball and get out of the way. The kicking and screaming, get the ball to the Italians offense, right? Trevor Lacey, then TJ Warren, then Cat Barber. We don't want that. We want multiple guys who can get it done. We want to scare defenses at every level with multiple players. And the one thing that I'll say I've heard out of the first open practice that is extremely exciting to me, shooting threes at a high clip.
Yeah.
Oh my God. For two football guys, Grayson, did we not tell people last season, hey, where's the shoot coming from? And where's the rebounding going to come from? And then when the season got here, did we not see a lack of both shooting and rebounding?
Writing was on the wall,
Now, this team, I expect them to be better at rebounding than last year, but shooting, I expect to be night and day. Because, I mean, you know, what Will Wade is saying about this team's ability to fill it up and what people who were at the open practice are saying about this team's ability to fill it up from deep. Oh, boy. The reckoning is here, ladies and gentlemen. It is here. And I am geeked up about it. As you can see, I can't stop smiling. It's making me think things and feel things that I ain't felt since puberty first started for me, okay? I am extremely excited about this offense and about this team in general.
I've been an NC State fan my entire life. I have never, not once felt this amount of preseason buzz around an NC State basketball team. Not even the year, I think we were like preseason number 6. That was with like Lorenzo Brown, TJ Warren, Rodney Purvis. I am far more excited about this team this year than I was back then. Real quickly on three-point shooting. Over the course of the summer, they kept track of everyone's shooting metrics and shooting statistics. Paul McNeil, our lone returnee, with an addition to Jordan Snell, Paul McNeil led the entire team in three-point shooting. He shot 46% over the course of the entire summer. Now, I don't say this to throw dirt in Kevin Keats' eye, but Will Wade and his staff, I feel like they're about to maximize the potential of Paul McNeil Jr. And I think you're going to see a lot of Paul as early as this season tipping off. I also want to talk about Jerry Dang. Jerry Dang apparently has been shooting it extremely well over the course of the summer and into the fall. This is a team that's going to value the three-point basket. Not only value it, but hunt it and knock it down. We know that Kevin Keats wanted to value it as well, but it just felt like outside of a handful of guys like Baby T or Sam Hunt, you didn't have the dead-eye shooters. I know it's still early and we still got to see this team get on the floor, but I think this team's going to be able to light it up from downtown on more than just one occasion this season. So there's a lot of talent, a lot of raw talent. Still have to see how it will conjoin and gel once we get onto the court. But Will Wade in this press conference is also fired up. You can tell that he, too, is getting ready to tip this thing off. I want to read to you a couple quotes, and I'm not going to be able to get through these without just laughing because that is how giddy I am about this season getting going. This is in relation to how he's going about his recruiting cycle. He says, and I quote, "We sell who we are. If you want to come, come. If you don't, we'll kick your ass," unquote. Is that not what you always have wanted to hear? Since the likes of Jim Valvano in Reynolds Coliseum, this is who we have wanted to run this NC State basketball program. One of the earliest things I said about Will Wade when he did sign on to come to Raleigh, we're going to have an edge about us. We're going to play like the bad boys now in the ACC. Other schools, not just in the ACC, but around the country, they're going to hate us. They will hate us because Will Wade's going to make us walk around with a different air than maybe we've ever had about us. Confidence will be at an all-time high. Swagger will be at an all-time high. That tenacity, that grit. People are going to consider us dirty because of how hard we play. And there's another quote from him talking about everyone else dealing with NC State. Says, quote, "People are going to have to deal with us, and you better get the hell out of the way." NC State basketball returns to the hard court in a little bit over a month, and there will be a reckoning that the rest of the country is going to have to deal with.
Hey, listen, I've already said this. I loved Kevin Keats as a human being. I think he's a great dude. I really do. I think that we've had plenty of other coaches that were good dudes that we look back at and we're like, hey, that's a solid guy right there. I don't want to wear the white hat anymore. I don't want to be those guys that America's rooting for and saying, oh, is that NC State in the Final Four? Oh, my God, look at them. Oh, is that NC State in the ACC championship game? Oh, my God, what a joy to see them there. I want to be what Wes Moore is to women's college basketball. You expect him there. You expect Wes Moore and his crew, you expect them there regardless of who's in, who's out, what pieces are missing, what pieces aren't. Will Wade has this thing rolling where you can tell he, too, shares my opinion of wanting to be the black hat. I remember when he first got to NC State, the first week, all of the NC State paraphernalia he was wearing had black as the base color. Some people would say I'm reaching. I believe, hey, I think that's intentional because he knows, like me, there's a psyche around wearing that black hat. There's a psyche around being that guy to go tell recruits, roll with it to get rolled over. Roll with it to get rolled over. That's it. That's it. There's a psyche to telling people you're going to walk around the office with pride about being an NC State fan. And let's be honest. Let's be very honest, right? Although all of those Duke fans, you know, who knows where they graduated from, but all of those Duke fans and all of those Carolina fans, hey, congratulations on your degree from UNC Charlotte. Way to be a 49er. It's a really great institution. We know what it's like to deal with them when they're good. We know what it's like to have them walking around the office with their head held high and their chin up and wearing that T-shirt that they got from Walmart when they were 19 and all that. You know, good for them. Good for them. But now it's our turn. And we're going to be every bit as insufferable. We're going to be every bit as pompous. We're going to be every bit as... I'm telling you right now, again, as a long-suffering Lions fan, for the first time in my life, back-to-back division champs, we're going there. As an NC State grad, I'm telling you right now, I'm ready to go there. I'm ready. I am geeked up and excited over the moon to go there on this trip with Will Wade.
Coming up next, this actually goes hand in hand with this current conversation. Will Wade has already gotten off to a hot start in recruiting so far through the transfer portal, but in the high school ranks, things are about to tip off right there as well. More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Thursday sponsor is DoorDash. It's almost time for the weekend, so it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. For the NC State Wolfpack, wide receiver Terrell Anderson delivered in a big way last weekend in Durham. When the pressure was on, Terrell answered 9 catches for 166 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. If you've been paying attention to TA, you know this performance was no fluke. And just like Terrell delivered for the Wolfpack, DoorDash will deliver for your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save more on every Saturday that you order. Stacking it up all season long, you can save up to $250 plus $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period goes from right now to November the 18th. Our second Thursday sponsor is FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel's making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if that $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes every game more exciting whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, it's simply the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com in order to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Again, if it wins, $300 back in bonus bets guaranteed. FanDuel, play your game. Middle portion of our Thursday show, now spending a couple extra minutes talking about Will Wade and his high school recruiting, which has already gotten off to a hot start. So we know the first ever high school recruit that he was able to pick off was Matt Abel, 5-star recruit after he decommitted from Miami. We're very excited about his prospects already. It's just a true freshman this season. For the 2026 class, we currently have one commit. Now, the first happened about 2 weeks ago. That's Trevon Carter-Givens. He's a 6'11 center from the state of California. NC State beat out San Diego State, Florida State, Arizona State, amongst many others. He's a 4-star center, a top 20 center across the entire country at just that position, and a top 120 player overall. Kenton, the 2026 class begins with a player in the front court. A lot of height there, 6'11".
We talked about needing size. We talked about the fact that, Van Allen Lubin, he's going to be out of eligibility after this year. And what's your contingency? What's your backup plan for bigs next year? Well, ask and you shall receive. Will Wade's high school recruiting out to a hot start out the gates. And Grayson, you and I talked about this. If we saw what we saw out of year 0 recruiting, right, what will year 1 even look like? And to be fair to all of our previous coaches, we have to be honest about the fact that, hey, we're in the running for some 5 stars, and I'm hearing some very interesting things. I'm reading some tea leaves that are looking mighty nice. Not Arizona tea, although I do love me some Arizona. They kept the bottles of .net. We ain't getting all that. The reality is there is appearing to be a very positive trend in terms of NC State's recruiting, and I'm very excited about it. I'm ready and waiting to see what this class looks like at the end, because Will Wade gave you the formula. One showstopper, one developmental guy, get some guys in the portal, and we see where the rest lands from there. Well, I feel like this 6'11 center, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's your showstopper at the center position or if he's your developmental guy. But if your developmental guy is a top 120 player in the nation, I want you to stop and think about that for a minute. Your top developmental guy is like, or your mid-level developmental guy, whatever the case may be, is a guy that, most other teams in the nation, if they sign him, he's the centerpiece to what they do right away. Very intriguing. Very interesting. I'm very excited. I'm all in on the Will Wade recruiting train.
If I had to guess, Carter-Givens most likely is one of the developmental players that Will Wade was kind of hinting at in the past. He's 6'11", but he's only 190, so certainly has more of a frame to kind of build out there before he arrives on campus. But that is a perfect segue into the next name we're going to talk about, and it's a name that's circulating all throughout the message boards, the text messages, the whispers on the street. There is a gentleman by the name of Cole Cloer who listed NC State in his final 5, not his top 5, but his final 5. And in that 5, as you see here on the screen, it's the Dirty Foot Club, it's the UConn Huskies, the Alabama Crimson Tide, the reigning national champion Florida Gators, and your NC State Wolfpack. Now, before we get into the details, let me tell you why this is significant. Mr. Cloer here, he grew up in Hillsborough, North Carolina, just down the street. So would you believe me when I tell you, at least this is what I've been told, he grew up an NC State Wolfpack fan. Now, if I'm Cole, if I'm putting myself in Cole's shoes, and I am a Wolfpack fan, and I see Will Wade now taking over the helm at NC State, and I saw what it looked like when NC State kind of miraculously got to the Final Four with Kevin Keatts, I think I'd have to stop and think about that a little bit longer than maybe my other 4 options. Of course, that's a biased take, so I'll tell you the rest now. Cole Cloer is a top 30 player nationally. He's a top 15 small forward in the country. He's 6'7", 6'8", also 190, so he's a little bit thin, but obviously a lot more growth to go on there. He currently plays his high school ball at the IMG Academy. Now, if you've heard that before, the real hoopers, they come out of the IMG Academy. Some of the best basketball teams ever created at the high school level have played at IMG. This is not an exact comparison. It's probably not even a good comparison. But based on what I've seen from Cole on his tape, I kind of feel like I'm looking at like a FUBU Cooper Flag. Like it's not Cooper Flag, but you can see some similarities there. He can shoot it from deep. He can rebound. He can get in the lane. He's very creative off the dribble. But I don't think he's as athletic as Cooper Flag. So that's why he's like a FUBU Cooper Flag and not like a Nike Cooper Flag. But Cole Cloer, hear me when I say this, he would send shockwaves across the college basketball recruiting world if he lands in the red and white.
Grayson, what you know about that '05 FUBU jersey? What you know about that '05?
I know all
FUBU
about
jersey?
it. I was getting them East Bay
know.
magazines.
I don't know, Grayson. I don't know, but I will tell you this about Mr. Cloer. The reality is this. He absolutely fits the brand of the showstopper. He fits a guy that if you feed him in his spots, he is going to knock it down. He fits a guy that if you need him to create off the dribble and get to his spots, he can do that as well. He fits as a guy that is much more lengthy. He is very fluid for a guy of his size. The way that he moves around the court, the way that he elevates to get his shot off, the way that he doesn't really seem to be bothered by bigger defenders because he's often too quick for them, and smaller defenders, what? You put a short guy on me? Why, thank you. We're going to shoot over him all night long. So the reality of this thing is when I look at his recruitment and I say, what would this mean for Will Wade? Which Grayson and I, our ears are on the pavement, Our ears are right there on the pavement listening to what it's saying to us. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to like this kid a lot if he lands in Raleigh, which seems like a very good possibility of happening. Again, he is a fantastic all-around player. He does a lot of things very well on the basketball court. In college, some colleges ask, what can you do well? The way that Will Wade and NC State is recruiting, they're asking, what can't you do? What we want guys who could do so much, we're looking at what can't you do, and that is exciting to me.
And aside from his talent on the court, another point that I really want to drive home, this is something I discussed very shortly after Will Wade was signed on to come to NC State. For so long, we've seen some of the top 4- and 5-star guys from right around the Raleigh area go off to play their college basketball elsewhere. I'm talking about the John Walls, the Devontae Grahams, the Bam Adebayos, you name it. We've been heartbroken by the amount of talent that has escaped us right there in the RTP. Now, Duke and Carolina have not always had that same problem for obvious reasons, but NC State now, with Will Wade and Raleigh, you're going to start to see the tide shift a bit. A kid like Cole Cloer is exactly what I was referring to. Look at this Final Five again for me real fast. You see UConn, who just recently won back-to-back national champions with Dan Hurley at the helm. You see Alabama, who had a trip to the Final Four with us, and they're consistently around the top 10 every year now with Nate Oates. Florida just won the national championship, so they're going to be very likely good again this season. And you see the Dirty Foot Club. Their reputation precedes them, unfortunately. And then, what is that, New Mexico right there in the middle? Is that the Lobos? No, that's NC State with Will Wade and Andrew Slater driving the bus now. Kent and I discussed this very in-depth football-related. We were talking about Dave Dorn and a couple of years back when you could feel a shift in recruiting, and if NC State could win something of significance, you would see a lot of talent pour into that program. And then we went 6-6. We're still kind of dealing with the fallout of that right now. Will Wade in year one, I promise you, if he wins the way that he thinks he's going to win, watch what happens on the recruiting trail. Cole Cloer would be an effect of that. Several other names that have already visited us in these last couple months would be an effect of that. NC State will be like Godzilla. Like other teams will be looking at their glass of water and they'll see the ripples. That's Will Wade coming. That's Andrew Slater coming. And they're not coming to be buddy-buddy and rub shoulders. They're coming to take the talent that we have been desperately chasing for decades on end. And if they get them to come to Raleigh, now that is what I call a reckoning. Obviously, much more basketball talk to come as they are nearing about a month away from tipping off the season. But coming up next, switching back into football mode, let's talk about our biggest concerns ahead of this Saturday night matchup with the Virginia Tech Hokies. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our third Thursday sponsor is Mazda. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, they keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward for the NC State Wolfpack was Terrell Anderson, taking a 75-yard tunnel screen to the house, set the tone early in that game, despite the end result. But Terrell Anderson had a breakout game, 9 catches for 166 yards and 2 touchdowns. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And for Terrell Anderson, I'm sure that performance was not unexpected at all. There's more to every highlight, just like there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Last couple minutes of our Thursday show, switching back into football gears now. We do have the Virginia Tech Hokies coming to town on Saturday night. It will be a 7 p.m. kickoff in Carter-Finley, also on the CW network. We haven't really discussed it yet, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it on Friday's show as well with Kenton's Keys. But, Kenton, I want to discuss with you, what do you see as the biggest concern for NC State entering this game following last week's loss to Duke?
The same guy that's terrorized us for multiple years. I wake up at night having night terrors about Donovan Green. And I think that he's a guy that you cannot ever just say, oh, yeah, his stats aren't about much, so he won't be much against us. Because have we not seen his stats not look great on the year before? And then all of a sudden he plays NC State and turns into prime Randy Moss or something. Like, this is a very real phenomenon with him in State. And so I'd probably say that's my biggest concern, because if he gets out the gates hot, what happens, right? If he gets out the gates hot, all of a sudden Kyron Drones gets hot. Kyron Drones gets hot, all of a sudden their running game might pick up a little bit. Running game picks up a little bit, all of a sudden their defense might string together a stop or two. Those things combined, now Virginia Tech is feeling confident. Now they're starting to chest get a little bigger, head gets lifted up from being a team that got their coach fired to now, hey, we could win 2 in a row. My biggest concern is, Donovan Green and not coming out with the right countenance to get this game out of the way early.
My biggest concern, actually, I have 2 biggest concerns. One of them is something they can control. One of them is something they cannot control. The can control is their attitude coming out of a loss. Now, historically, that has actually served Dave Doran coach teams very well. They usually play well coming out of a loss, and they try to avoid situations that roll into back-to-back losses. Now, we know that Virginia Tech has mightily struggled so far this year. They have not looked good at all against teams that have a pulse. No disrespect to Wofford, but it is what it is. Virginia Tech has already fired their coach. They're using an interim coach the rest of the season. Surprisingly enough, they still at this point have only had 2 players enter the portal. Another wide receiver who also serves as their punt returner entered on Thursday. So for NC State, your focus, what does your focus and your realignment look like coming out of a loss? You're back at home, and this is a game that you should win. I don't like saying should, but you understand what I mean there. The second thing that NC State can't control, but they're going to have to deal with, the weather. I don't know if many of y'all have started looking at the weather forecast for Saturday night. Actually, you could say the rest of this week at this point. It is supposed to rain in Raleigh for essentially every bit of like the next 9 to 10 days in a row. That includes virtually all day on Saturday. Is this game going to be like a hurricane type of game where nobody can really throw the ball through the air? You're just going to have to run it like 60 times and whoever's more effective will win the game. Might it be a special teams type of game where a blocked field goal might make the difference like it did against Notre Dame back for us in 2016? This game could get extremely ugly if the weather elements are also ugly. So what does NC State do in that scenario? Are they prepared to play in another mud bowl type of game? I will say this, however, I think if it does devolve into that, I feel like it would be advantage NC State because our run game has been one of the best so far in the ACC. Hollywood Smothers is a top 5 running back in the country as of now, and Virginia Tech has not ran the ball or defended the run very well in their first 4 games. So potentially, if it's an ugly game, advantage State.
And as William Mac Brown would tell you, we apparently have a special type of cleat that is made for just rain
man.
and whatnot. So,
you remember that?
It's one of those
special cleats. Remember that?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
We've got special cleats here, but no, in all seriousness, I'm really not concerned about the weather. I do agree with you on the attitude, but I don't. To me, if anything, I'm excited if I see that the weather is mucky because the only player that Virginia Tech has that has ever looked like a true game breaker right now is Kyron Drones. Well, if the weather makes it so that he's negated, oh no, anything but that, please, yikes. That would be like the CEO of my company saying, hey, we need you to hire 10 people by the end of June or else you get to go on a date with Meg Thee Stallion. Not that. Oh, God. Please. But no, in all seriousness, the weather isn't as much of a concern to me as the attitude because, like you said, it is what you can't control. And I'm always bigger on worrying about what what I can control than what I can't.
Be sure to let us know what your biggest concern is in the comments section. That will do it for us here on Thursday. As always, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, drop your comments in the comment box if you have not already. Give us your thoughts on Will Wade and the approaching reckoning about to tip off in a little over a month's time. Anything else that maybe you've heard on the streets about who may start, who may provide depth, who might the showstopper be for this year's team? Provide your thoughts on that as well. Your thoughts on Will Wade's recruiting cycle so far. Maybe if you think Cole Cloer will be putting on the Wolfpack red and white. I do think that commitment is actually rapidly approaching as well because he moved around some visits. I've seen a couple crystal balls actually for NC State as well. So keep your eyes peeled. Anything else you have on your mind, drop that in the comment box as well. We'll catch you back here tomorrow on Friday for Kenton's Keys and more ahead of Saturday's matchup with Virginia Tech. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.